Okay, hello. We are back live
Hey.
with another world building stream. How is
Yes.
everyone? How are people? It's great to be back. Great to be here on a Wednesday. Or if you're watching this on
Good to
YouTube
see
in
you
the
all.
future, great to be here whenever the frick you're watching it.
Yeah. Just good to see anyone.
Good to see anyone. Good to see everyone. So, Raph, as you take a drink, I'll ask you questions.
So Des.
Um,
Yes.
We're talking Prime Material Realm, and that's a lot to
are.
cover. That's a lot. Also, my headset is finally fixed. I match my chair. This is great.
Let's just all take a moment to appreciate the fact that Des has done really the past week and a half using a very scuffed headset set.
No, scuffed. I can actually take the headset off without an earpad falling off my head, which is great.
We love that.
We do love it. So what's new with you this week, Raph? How's your week going?
Ooh. My week's been alright so far.
That's good.
Yeah, starting out strong with D&D Monday and then downtime Tuesday and then streaming again. Be good.
Yeah. We're out here. At the very least, we are. We are out here.
Yeah.
So, what area of the Prime Material do you think is the best to start on? Because obviously in Quenthos, our planet, that is the Prime Material. The Prime Material encompasses, I think, about 5 realms. Like 5 realms. Yep. 5?
Almost, I would say almost
6. Yeah.
I would say almost 6, because Drapin and Quenthos, I would
actually say 7 then.
Yeah, 7. Yeah, actually, yeah, 7 in that case.
So we have Quenthos, Drapidon, World Below, and then the 4 elemental planes.
I reckon start with the elemental planes and how they, how they interact with the world and their importance to the Prime Material.
Okay. Got 2. One second.
The border realms.
So obviously, easiest put we have. The plane of fire.
Yes.
Water elemental plane. You can't hear me typing, can you?
I cannot actually. It's really good. Completely none of that. Elemental plane of water, fire, which I think the elemental plane of the water is the one that we've kind of touched upon in games the most and had mentioned the most.
Yeah, we've talked about it. We've been there. In the Raid of the
Yeah, we've been there. Yeah, exactly.
We went to Deadshot Port, so.
And we explored quite a bit in the lands of the elemental plane of water.
A little bit. It was like the border of ice, actually.
Yeah.
I hate the tab doesn't indent on.
Whatever. I know. I've had that same problem. It's still just. I'm still not used to it. So I'm curious though about the other elemental planes, how they function, because we know very much how you reach the elemental plane of water. You sail.
You sail. You gotta go there.
Whereas.
So, by the same logic, you got to pass through water to get to the elemental plane of water. So let's light ourselves on fire, and we'll get to the elemental plane of fire.
Otherwise,
we're just get a mild sunburn, like me, every day.
Yeah.
The elemental planes specifically, like they're in our setting, they kind of encompass the realms at like their apex, like the most extremes, like the great frozen norths of the water elementals. They've got the elemental plane of fire specifically is like the transitionary areas between, like, to get to the elemental planes of fires are the volcanoes and such in the world. Like, you have to delve into the magma chambers where they would all connect, like, across. And the elemental plane of fire is what fuels volcanoes in the setting. Like, that's where that comes from. Elemental plane of air is literally like there's a firmament above Quenthos and Drapidon, like that separates it and guards it from the void. Like the ozone layer, so to speak, is like its own realm.
Does it have creatures up there? Does it have like its own?
It has air elementals, air dragons. like
Yeah.
cloud giants would have settled there.
I was going to call them. I was going to call them air giants.
Air giants.
Yeah, cloud giants, air
Right.
giants.
Um,
But yeah, so there are cloud giants that live up.
and
live
then
up
I
in
think
the
the
elemental.
there are, and I think the closest one that Calisyndir, your character on our Monday game, would have access to or knowledge of would be the elemental plane of Earth. It actually, so in our setting, the planet, then underneath the crust has the world below. And then beneath that, as you get closer to the core, you have the elemental plane of Earth.
Right.
It's
Okay.
like,
Well, let's talk a little bit then about the elemental plane of Earth.
okay, let's start on that.
So, how does that work in terms of for civilizations like Starless? Do they have much of a interaction with the elemental plane of Earth? Or is it more just knowledge of it, or do they have a connection to it? Are there people that go to it?
I definitely think there are people that go to it because it's probably, as a plane, the single most resource dense plane.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
as like the metals and such that can be mined in the elemental plane of Earth are so much more ample and like prosperous. There's so much more resources down there. The sheer quantity of it comparative to the elemental plane of like the world below, or not the elemental plane, but the world below, or the actual what's the word I'm trying to look for, or like the surface realms. There is many more like dense, like very much a dense veins of metals and jewels and gems and minerals.
Yeah, which almost like rejuvenate there and like replenish themselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's a never-ending cycle.
Okay, so yes, there would be sort of. I imagine like you would have to travel quite a way into the world below, in order to actually reach it. Like it
you'd have to get like what the world below is to the surface realms. The elemental plane of Earth is to the world below. It's like
right. Okay, yeah. It would be like an expedition to reach.
It's
the elemental plane.
You gotta get down. Like there's other caveways. Hey, what's up, ATD Cartography? How you doing?
Hey,
just for
time to save.
How are you? How's your week going? How has your week been? Let us know what's up with you. Happy to have you here.
Good to have you here. Yeah, always good to have you here. But yeah, so I imagine as well, like that would attract some people from the surface who would have knowledge of the elemental plane of Earth. That would attract them to go there in search of, the mineral wealth that it holds.
Absolutely, it's just so
that's actually
valuable to them. It's like
and
I'd probably say it's where a lot of the specific platinum ore that is mined from the Starless civilization is on the border realms between, like, where, because in the setting it's like you don't go from, like, there is not a harsh separation between elemental plane of water and element and prime material. They're kind of like they blur together slowly. So like there is these like boundaries, these borders where it's like we're starting to get into like not an actual change of realm. Like it's still the same planet, but it's what is considered like the natural
and you have some of
plane
the elements.
Yeah,
and you have some of the elements of the elemental plane seeping over into the prime material and like the weird blending of the two.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we saw in Rays of Yozgrin.
Yeah, so those like that border areas is where like fair few like Starless outposts would be set up to cover the mining of platinum and like electrum. Sorry, not platinum, electrum. A lot of the electrum.
Electrum. Yeah.
Like that they use as their currency.
Starless. Which by the way, I just love that as a concept we came up with. Like, they mine for electrum. Electrum is their currency. It's the world below.
They're a weird civilization.
They're a weird bunch of people.
But as for the elemental plane, there is like I don't imagine in Quenthos and Drapton as a setting like many, like there's no like large cities like the city of brass from the elemental plane of fire that we are like familiar with in more common setting. I don't think that there is a lack of civilization, but I don't think there's like these large prosperous things. Like there's genies and stuff that would have like small domains, but I don't think you're going to find like many civilized folk.
The way I'm imagining it is that it's much more for like 80% of it is much more of a primordial sense of it. It's much more the base elements.
Yeah, it's very
earth, fire,
primordial.
and
Also,
that.
yo, what
And
up,
you have-
Cookie?
Hey, Cookie.
How you doing?
But yeah, you very much have the primordial elements existing in elementals roaming around doing their thing, but very much like that in like the in a very raw form. But then you would have more powerful elementals like genies that would have like pocket dimensions
Yeah.
almost, and like
But
small
like
pockets
not
where they would
pocket
have
dimension,
big
but like
palaces
carved
and
out
stuff.
places. I would be really, really impressed if you can remember the name, because I cannot. You freed a genie in the Council Lament that was a sand genie of the elemental plane of Earth, and he told you the name of his palace, and he told you his name.
Okay, Des, do I get anything if I get this right?
Look, respect.
Respect the hustle. Let's have a look.
You can also just pull a name and tell me, and I'll be like, maybe. So I can't remember where I learned, but a lot of the heavy elements like gold and platinum on Earth are formed by exploding neutron stars, as they are too dense to be formed by normal stars. Ooh, that sounds cool.
That does sound fucking cool.
Heavy elements.
And this is yet further proof of the stars, that stars are the integral part of everything.
It all comes down to stars.
It all comes down to stars.
When in doubt, have a few more stars until they return. But no, obviously, the elemental plane of Earth itself does have like the sand areas, like the deserts in the elemental plane of Earth that are down there. There is like these genies that can affect it, and if I was smarter, I would remember the name of that genie, and it's really annoying me.
I don't.
It is.
Councilman, do you mean the one on the train?
No, I mean the one underneath Zaran.
Oh fuck! Okay.
Yo, Chad, give us a second while we go back to a campaign where we played like 2 years ago to try and remember something, a throwaway NPC.
Yes. I completely forgot we had that. That was a time.
Yeah, I can just literally open up the game and pull his stats up. I still have it. We're not sidetracked. This is semi-related to what we're talking about.
Oh my god. I don't think I actually have it.
Wow, he offered you help if you ever found yourself there, so...
I know.
Fuck.
I know. I've got some other names coming up, but I don't have the genie.
That's okay. I can maybe find it. Rick.
Let's have a look.
I just need to find the map that it was on. As well, that's back when I didn't make my maps. I used tile packs.
Oh, you're kidding me. That's why.
Why?
That's why I don't have it. Oh, that's so annoying.
What's wrong?
Because I changed my PC during that time, and for some reason it deleted a section of my notes. So I have this vacancy between session 44 and session 48, which is when we had that sequence. I have it missing in my notes. I have those few sessions, they're missing in my notes, so I don't have any mention of the genie.
I am correct. It is that time, isn't it?
It is. It's when we went into the palace to rob. Retrieve the artifact that was necessary.
It's definitely in the handouts of NPCs, I think.
Yeah,
I used to make.
Motherfucker! I can't believe it. I forgot that happened. I forgot 4 sessions of notes were just obliterated out of existence, never to be returned.
Sorry, chat. We are actually getting a little bit distracted right now.
Because we did have an Earth Elemental who we knew. Save and back up, shove it in your match.
I have it.
I know.
I have it. I didn't lose it.
What is it?
So I'll let you know when you find it, if you're right.
Okay.
I'll give you a clue. The name begins with N.
N. Oh, buddy. N. N.
Nah is the first three letters of his name.
Nah. Nahajad. No.
No.
There are so many handouts in that campaign. This is not.
I found it. It's you have to navigate to Zeran, and then it's in the Zeran Palace for some reason. Because technically it's under the palace.
Technically under the palace, but
it's Nahiban, Master of the Lost Dunes.
No, Master of Lost Dunes. That's it. I was trying to think of his title. Master of Lost Dunes, Nahiban. So yeah, we met. So I imagine Nahiban would have, a palace or something like that, just like carved out of the sands. That would be sort of his personal little realm. But I imagine for most of the elemental planes, it would be more like you have these oases of civilization in an otherwise very primordial realm.
Oh yeah, it's like it is not at all like aptly populated. Also, I just want to say hello to a lurker in the chat, Earthly Darkness. You followed us after a raid last time we raided out on Monday. I believe it's great to see you in the chat. Hello if you're listening.
Getting called out as a lurker, that is one of the most
I see the name and it's recent in the new follower list, and I see your name in chat, in the users in chat section. So if I can just make your ears perk up, that'd be hilarious. But yes, yeah, there's a lot of like small civilizations. Like there's the casino we got to in the Raiders of Yalsgren game, which no, don't run. You're definitely not being hunted. You're not being hunted for any specific reason whatsoever. Don't panic. You'll be okay. Roll initiative.
Iban, that's Iban in
Nahiban and Iban. I feel like my naming convention for genies is falling into a similar.
Oh, and you know what? Not only that, we met the ruler of the elemental plane of fire.
Yeah, you did.
Mizatel.
You did meet them.
Mizatel. We met the very ruler of the elemental plane of fire. And as we went to the genie party, where there's a lot of elementals hanging around, drinking, partying, and Icebox. Shout out to
Icebox.
Gone but not forgotten. So yeah,
Stay frosty.
In terms of, for fuck's sake, in terms
also,
of the elemental plane of, sorry.
Oh, I was about to go off on another tangent. I was going to say, it's really gamer ref. You used your prime on the session where we're talking about the prime material. So if you got a prime in chat, it's time to use your prime material.
So if you got a prime in chat, we're talking about the prime material, so
It's just it works.
You just
gotta do it like that,
guys. What more can we say? But yeah, so in terms of traveling to the elemental plane of Earth, is it dangerous for people outside of it to be there? Like, is it a very hostile place?
I think it's a place where you'd have an awful lot hard time trying to find food. It's not going to be a place where it's like bountiful with like local fauna to eat, and the flora is like minimal at that too. It would be quite barren in its sense.
Yes, very much. Yeah, like rock, soil, minerals, dirt, like things like that, but no vegetation as such.
Exactly. It should be like. It would be quite inhospitable to people traveling there. It would actually be quite dangerous, but I think most of the people that would die along the way would be people who are dying of exposure. I don't think it'd be much other aspects of people passing from anything else. I think.
Well, I mentioned there would be hostile elementals.
Well, yeah, but you can't eat a hostile elemental unless you try really hard.
Are there like creatures that live there in terms of monsters and such? Like I know that. In like the other settings and stuff, that there are some creatures that have found their home on the elemental planes, but is that still the case, or is it still very much like?
What creatures are you referring to?
I'm fairly sure in terms of Forgotten Realms, basilisks. have like basilisks are in the elemental plane of Earth and creatures like that. Like there's some
Um, I'd say there still could be some there, but
that
I wouldn't say it's
crossover.
mutually exclusive that they're under there. I think your typical ones
Yeah.
are going to be your elementals and anything that's elementally powered, but also just like primordials, like old creatures that fled underground a long time ago. Like there's always a bigger
wanna know
fish.
more
There's
about
always a
this.
deeper layer.
I'm curious about the primordials then.
In what sense? What do you mean the primordials?
Because like in terms of what scale are we talking about for these primordials? Like
Well,
equivalent to sort of
there is
diet
titans.
kind? Yeah, yeah.
Like we've talked
So
about
in
titans
that-
a few times. There's elemental titans. There's one elemental
Yes.
titan of each element.
Yeah.
And those were the
Well, I mean, like-
primordials.
How much are known about them?
Barely anything. It's something the Jotuns pushed underground before.
I was gonna say, I like the idea that they were the original, but then the Jotuns came, then the Jotuns pushed them underground.
Yeah.
And then the old gods arrived and tried to do that to the Jotuns.
Yeah, but like the Jotuns were the first settlers. They came from like the deity that created all the deities. Like
Yeah.
the original one. The thing that they worship as their god is the divine observer. And that's where they came from. They were
Mhm.
carved from the mountains and given this realm as their home. And the primordial forces like were clashing across the entirety of like Quenthos, and they pushed them the elemental earth ones below. They pushed the fire ones back to the volcanoes from which they were spewing. They
Mhm.
caused such an uproar that the air ones refused to come down from the heavens, and the water ones were forced back into the ocean.
Yeah.
To everything, like
Okay.
Jotuns are immortal. So basically, what right now that they see
Mhm.
humanity is like they've got a termite infestation. They've got like a
Yeah.
bunch of pests, and they're just like, fuck it, they'll die out. Like they're reproducing an awful lot, but I'm sure if we just give it time, if we try to squash them all,
Mhm. Yeah, we'll just call them exterminators eventually. We'll do them.
yeah, but it's like, they were the originals and they treat their home as such, but they
Yes.
were the ones who fought back against, like, when obviously because the divine observer, the god that created them, created everything. Like that, they're the one who
Mhm.
created the 9 planets before, and he was populating them. And then started let the other smaller deities I refer to our great old ones as other smaller deities, like populate the world and see how that can come to be, in which that things started to happen. Planets got their purposes, and the Jotuns found home on Quenthos and pushed back everything. It's like, well, we're making home for us.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting.
That is the way I can answer the question on primordials, anyway.
Yeah, primordials. That's curious. Yeah, because I wasn't sure if that was something that happened or if that was existed. That's actually something I was wanting to ask for a while, was about sort of primordial titans and such. How
They're just
factor
not part
into it.
of quote unquote human history of like the humanity, elves,
Right.
dwarves, all
But
of that.
very
It's
much
like
the
this is like,
primordial history.
yeah,
like,
primordial history. Like
very much
Jesus, no,
on-
they would
on
remember.
brand.
Like,
Yeah. Are they still a presence though in the elemental planes?
yeah, they would.
The
They
elemental
would definitely be
planets?
very, very powerful. I would even say the ruler of the. I don't know if they're the titan of each is one.
Mm-hmm.
Is the ruler, because I don't know if the titans are always that cogniscient, but I think the rulers
Mhm.
would control the titans at the very least. So that fire elemental,
Yes.
that fire genie that you met, the Ifrit.
Mizatel. Yeah.
Enjoy your lurk, ATD cartography. Enjoy watching from the shadows. Happy to have your lurk. Um,
Always happy to have lurkers.
gotta have lurkers in
I mean,
chat.
don't often call them out.
No. But no, that's kind of how it would work in a sense of, like primordials is like the rulers of the realms. Like they wouldn't rule like vast, large cities and party palaces and such, but it's like they might have like a small court equivalent to like a Fey court that they would consider their
Yes.
home, that they are ruling over, and they do a good job. But it's like
Yeah.
how they'd go about doing it may depend on each elemental, each one's approach.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck cleaning your fish tank, by the way.
Enjoy listening with wet hands. Raph took the fish tank part, so I'll do the other part.
Like, I left you with the best part, arguably. So in terms of genies, what are they like? How do they tend to be in Quenthos to Rapin in the setting? Like, are they more selfish beings?
Oh
or
yeah,
like
they're
they
selfish
just-
creatures for sure.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
like we saw a little bit of it with Iban and all in the Elemental Plane of Waters. They want to live lives of luxury. They want to party. They want to have a good time. They're like, I don't really care for much. They would definitely be revelers in the sense like there'd be a lot of revelry in those planes in their courts, like because they have a lot of. Also, Emma Radish, thank you for the follow. That's very nice of you. How are you
Ooh,
today?
thank you.
Give us a little pop off of a hello and chat if you're there, if you're listening. Super happy to have you here. I don't see your name in chat, but you never know. Thank you for the follow all the same.
But yeah, so genies are very much, self-absorbed, interested in their own goings
Absolutely.
on.
Absolutely. They
Do
definitely
they?
want to,
Yeah, sorry.
they want to live a fun life. Like that's the main thing for a lot of genies.
Yes.
They collect a lot of stuff. And ML Radish,
Hmm.
pretty good. We like pretty good. We're also pretty good. We're doing a bit of world building of a Wednesday, which is
Yeah,
a
we're doing well.
regular thing. We're talking prime material today, and we're getting we're talking about the origins, the very, very start. Talking about the elementals, the primordials that were there at the very beginning. It's pretty fun. How's your day going?
Yeah, so in terms of genies and such, do they? Because obviously, like we know that other planes, in terms of the actual worlds, they all have certain interactions with the higher powers on them, with mortal races as such, human races. Do genies have much of an interest in the goings on the material plane in terms of outside in Quenthos,
So-
Rapidon?
We haven't seen an awful lot of genies for a good reason. Genies don't give
No.
in my setting. Genies are very like we saw it with the band. They're curators. They're collectors. They want to collect weird and wild and fun things. They want to have courts and they want to hold power. Some of them are
Yeah.
slavers. Some of them collect people, but they collect things. And it's if they're getting involved with a mortal, it's more than likely because that there is something that they want. They want to get their
Okay.
hands on something. They want to add something to their collection. They want to move in a way that they're going to benefit. I never expect if you have a pact with a genie in my setting, never expect to be like you're not gonna get fucked over like a devil will put you in harm's way, but you are not going to get more than you give with the genie. Like there's like
Okay.
in my setting, unless you're in character and not remembering this, there's no such thing as a generous genie.
Yeah.
Like this isn't Aladdin. The genies are not the good guys. They want to have fun.
Yeah, they don't grant you wishes.
No, but we can also talk a little bit about Genasi here and the origins of Genasi because we're talking about the primordials and the elemental
I was
planes.
going to ask you.
They don't
that.
come from genies. I can't remember what's the official lore on Genasi as like a race.
If the official law on Genasi is that basically, I think that the way that you had them is that they were formed from parts of elemental turmoil as such. So, like a volcano going off in a location would start a lineage, potentially a lineage of fire genasi from children born around that area in the effects of the volcano. Or if there was a tsunami, then you would have water genasi or an earthquake. Very much when the elemental planes start to interact and cause disturbances on the material plane, and you have a slight meshing between the prime material and the elemental planes, in those instances you have genasi forming. And then obviously over time they have children of their own, and so it dilutes from that, and it's not always traced, but it's always traced back to these events, but it doesn't necessarily have to be because of them.
That's how it works in our setting anyway. Whereas compared to like the official stuff, it's normally actually traced to genies or people who've had been in a place that were suffused by a genie's magic. That's Raf's put it very, very beautifully in our setting. That's how it works. It's elemental, where the elemental planes bleed in those border realms, children's conceived in that area. Like, we even have some of our own coming through, like the Ice Genasi coming out.
Shout out to Razor Gosgrid. Once
Yeah,
again.
made it. Which, honestly, I feel like we need to make an Ice Genasi stat block and actually include it. And although I don't know
I think that would actually be a really
I don't know the
interesting
copyright of Genasi. I suppose we could just call it Ice Elemental, the Ice Elemental race, or some other name.
Ice Elemental person. Yeah, Ice person.
Legally distinct.
Legally distinct Ice person.
Not a Genasi, legally distinct.
Yeah.
1 second, I'm gonna check.
But yeah, so in terms of that, you have Genasi being formed, and so there's no, I guess it's not comparable to a tiefling, for example, who would have, you know, some level or some realm of Osiris that they're connected to.
No, you'd have
much more an abstract link to the elemental planes of Genasi, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I'm sure that some Genasi could come from genies, potentially.
I'm sure they could, but it would be more the genies starting the, like, the elemental energy would be seeping into the realm because of the genie, not so much that it's descendant of that genie. It's like...
Yes, yeah.
The genies themselves, especially the more strong ones that are, like, have control over the Titans, like, or, like, maybe there's a group of them, like a democracy controlling a Titan. Like, that amount of energy off of them would innately start to just, like, exude elemental energy off them. So if a genie did stand up on the prime material and, like, couple humanoids were going at it, the child, if they were close by, could be conceived, could turn out to be a... Like,
yeah,
if there was just accidentally... Like the most crass way I could put it is, if a genie were to visit a pleasure house, a lot of those children, regardless of who that genie was with, would be coming out as Genasi.
As Genasi, okay. Yeah.
So it's like, if a town suddenly has like an influx of like 60 fire Genasi born within a week of each other, you know what's happened in that town.
Yeah. Either that, or there's been like a volcano going off nearby.
Yeah, that's probably the more logical
one. Also, in the case of Raiders of Yozgun, we've seen that proximity and living in the borderlands between planes can create Genasi as well. Children being born there in those borderlands can be Genasi, because you have the bleeding between of the energies anyway. Although obviously there aren't too many people that live in those areas. Yeah. So in terms of more on the elemental plane, is there something that separates, like, are all genies between the planes similar, or is there like characteristics that define each of them a bit differently?
Do you mean the element, or like the actual, like, an individual?
No, in terms of the element, is like a genius from the elemental plane of Earth different in terms of the way they act, the way they conduct themselves from those in the elemental plane of fire? Or is it more down to the personality of individual genies regardless of the elemental?
So plane? I think it comes down to the personality. I don't want to give a blanket statement saying all genies are, like, all fire genies are slavers, because that's definitely not how I've run any setting or anything of my like, all devils are evil, like 100% lawful evil, like all genies are slavers. I think it comes down person to person. Like, you met a Bon who was literally like a gluttonous gambler, whereas you might meet like another water genie in that area, like couple kilometers away. For Americans, that's miles, a couple miles away, and they'd have like these palaces, like, that are like rather than having just like, oh, what up, Fajuk? How you doing? How are you today?
Yeah.
But the water, like, you might have a water genie who's literally, or an ice genie, who has everything like encased perfectly nice, like almost like a museum. It's like perfect, neat, narrow. Whereas like you had a Bon who's literally doing shots of people's souls, like imported from the hells. These are soul shots. Like, there's no two genies that are going to be exactly the same.
Yeah. Okay. The only thing they kind of all share is that most of them are fairly self-absorbed and self-interested.
Most of them think that they would be the best person to rule their element. That would probably be the one thing. It's like, you know, I am the most capable and most apt to do this. Now, there's still some that would fall into the category that don't feel like that, like Iban, who's like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. I want to fucking
I just want to
party.
sit back and I just want to sit back, do shots, and just party.
I want to die fat, happy, and full of a fuck ton of souls.
Yeah.
Which also, can we talk
that's
about the
really
soul shots for a minute? How harrowing that was. Imagine your soul is being harvested for something and it's literally just for a genie to drink you. It's like, that's how your soul goes.
That's how your soul goes. That is how your soul disappears from existence. A genie does a shot of it.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of the 40k Necron guy who goes out and collects things. People for his museum, freezing them in place. I unfortunately, because you'd have a very, very small place in my brain for anything 40k. I played Warhammer 40k when I was like 7 or 8, and I played the Necrons once or twice. I can't remember what they are, but I did play them.
But yeah, in terms of that, I imagine that there would be some G's out there who would do stuff very much like that. Like, oh, this is an interesting person. I'm gonna like collect them and put them in ice.
Of course, like that's what I was saying. There should be, there's like an ice genie out there, like Niraban, who would literally be like, I want to like, oh, you stopped a war, you're a king on death. Ooh, you would be very, very good preserved forever for me.
Ooh, you restored a dead god to life. Ooh, you'd be very good preserved for me.
Yeah, but that is why you could find yourself in the service of like a warlock to a genie. It's like,
yes,
well, like, I'm gonna draw attention because, as we saw in like our pre-stream game with like Nahiban, is there's an awful lot of elemental power that you can, like almost an infinite amount of elemental power exudes off of these higher genies that can be used to power many things. And it's like, I'm not going to risk getting captured for someone to make me a power source, especially in like modern, like Darapadan side, when there's the elementally charged sky ships and water, like the water galleons and the lightning rails. Like there's elementals that are needed for this, like so it's like, especially like in like modern era when Quintus gets up to that point as well, like these elementals are like, these fuckers are trying to do what I do to people. They're trying to turn me into a resource.
Motherfuckers.
That's not what you do, that's what I do.
How dare you? I'm better than you. How dare you do this? This isn't legal.
Pretty much.
I like that.
Has anyone at the current table done a genie as a patron? No. No one has.
No.
We have had...
No one's done any rule. We've had Genasi.
We've had a Genasi, we've just not had a genie patron. We've had... As for patrons at the table, I believe we've done Devil, we've done God, we've done...
Yes.
Devil,
Vampire.
We've done Vampire, we've done Fae, and we've done Old God.
Yeah, I think that about covers it.
Bar, like, I'm trying to think, like, have you and I have, like, what was, like, before Cade?
I've done God.
I don't think we had Warlocks.
God. Yeah, I've done God, Devil, Old God. Well, 2 Old Gods, and a Devil.
Then we had a Fae. We had Devil.
It. Yeah. I think we had. I think we had Demon. We had Demon, didn't we?
When
in the very short-lived demigod.
No, there wasn't. There
was someone with a connection to Demon though in that.
There was, but it never, like, that game is not considered canon because it got rebooted for the other Fallbacks game.
Yeah. But otherwise there's. Yeah, so we've never had a genie.
We've had Devils and Gods and 1 Fae. That's basically it.
Yeah. We've never had a Great Old One, or like a true proper Great Old One.
That's because most of the Great Old Ones are gods. Like they're the Great Old Gods.
Yeah, it's just those that are still in the void and haven't really civilized themselves, so to speak.
Civilized themselves. You mean domesticated themselves? How dare!
Look, old gods are just domesticated Great Old Ones.
They domesticated themselves like cats. That's what an old god is in our setting. It's a
No,
fancy cat.
just oh fuck. I like that, but I simultaneously just hate that.
Is there canon stuff that exists before Ref? No. So
No.
I had an old setting, originally called Quentos, was the original name as well.
Yep. Which is why my folder in my notes.
But no, so there was an old setting called Quentos that got basically fully revamped, but there was a couple bits that got carried over inspiration from it. And we then in, I want to say late 2018. No.
Late 20.
No. Early 2018. Early 2019 is when we started with Jess, but we'd originally done Q2.0 2018.
We started Q 2.0 at the very start of 2019, which meant the world was started in creation end of 2018, I think. Because at least my stuff dates back to...
No, I feel but I literally have these books in my desk.
No.
I think it's early 2018.
You're right. I think it's end of 2018. End of 2018 is when we played, I think.
So I can get the last session of so the Idris situation. Wait.
In terms of, are we talking Q2
so
2.0?
Q 2.0 first session started the 5th of the 20th 2018. So I started working on that a few months prior. Just started coming up with ideas. So I'd say about, let's say, give it 2 months before, let's say August 2018. So I've been working on this setting for 4 years. But the Raph also started, like, he played in the old setting. It was my first ever setting. Not much the original world building. Raph only came in helping me world build within the past this year.
Since Dequanthos, the whole Durapidan side of the world was done exclusively by Des.
Yes.
And then just on the Dequanthos side of things,
Raph has started helping bit by bit. I've given writing prompts, and Raph has shown themselves to be very, very competent for also knowing how to, I don't know if this is the right word, emulate my style?
Yeah, I mean, I know...
Or have a similar style? Like, I mean tone. Like,
yeah, I know.
Emulate the same tone that I like to go for.
Yes, I know that, like, the type of themes and tones and ideas and concepts that you like and that you want to include in your world, and I'm able to pick those out and replicate them. And also, we've also worked with each other for quite a decent time now. That I feel
over
like
4 years.
Yeah. So yeah, ideas I come up with, you're mostly receptive to, or at least can be like, yeah, no, that ain't gonna.
I either accept it wholeheartedly or change it and say, here's what I want it changed on it, but I like it, go ahead. And ML Radish, I have a good question for y'all. Hit us with it. We're not getting distracted tonight, you're getting distracted tonight. What's the question?
Let's hear it.
What would be a good system or universe to use as a new world, old western type of game, or space western? A space western, I would personally probably gravitate towards Starfinder. I could do a space western in Starfinder very well. Other than that, oh god, what's it called? Is it
space western as well? I mean, in terms of sci-fi settings, one of the ones that I like a lot is Stars Without Number. Very good if you just want like a general overall thing for you to fit your own setting into it. Without it being less constrained, and also it's more science fiction as opposed to like science fantasy type of setting, so it depends how, like, it turns on the world. New World Old Western, that one there, like, what, like in terms of what aspect of that. The Firefly TTRPG was great fun. I didn't even know there was one. That's actually interesting.
That's very interesting. There was, it's not GURPS. Matt Mercer helped work on an open source, open game content. Like Traveler is another great sci-fi system, which
I know I can't. I don't know much about the New World Old Western thing, but in terms of space westerns, Traveler's also very good for that.
Is it the open games? I can't. What is the name of it? I cannot remember. There is an RPG that's like basically anything can be run out of it. Matt Mercer helped work on it a little bit. Can anyone remember the name? Traveler dying character creation. Oof. Big oof.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can, but
what is the name of that? That's getting under my skin. Is it just GURPS? Am I completely crazy? I'll have to check the character sheet. No, GURPS was 1985. Can't remember. It's like there's some open something.
yeah.
Last question. Hopefully soon, Vijay. That is a big part of what I've been wanting to get Raph into is the DM seat.
Very good.
I think he would do an excellent job.
Yeah, look, I hope to at some stage. I'll start out, of course, probably more in like less than doing a full game. Would be doing one shot
or a
like
mini series.
Yeah. Trying to think of something that I would like to DM to fit in with.
Also, to just briefly get an approval on the concept as well.
Yeah.
It'd be canon.
And something which is like interests me, and Des is like, yeah, this is what I want to explore in the world as well. So go for it. Which it will happen.
It'd be very, very interesting.
Make it a sub goal. Sub
goal. How many subs do you want, Raph? 50, 100, 200?
Ooh, I could set it really high, and no one would give a fuck.
No, I definitely want Raph to DM though. I think he's very, very creative, and I think he could do very well. But it doesn't have to be your last question. If you have more questions, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, feel free. This is what this
Patreon goal would work too. That's smart. Patreon goal would work too.
It would work well. But yes, back to the elemental planes. So we discussed in terms of how they function, how they interact with the material plane. And we've touched upon the elemental plane of Earth, I think, probably in some detail, sufficient detail in terms of the borderlands and how to access it. Is there anything else you want to go to in with that you feel like we need to touch upon?
Not much. Which one? So we talked about Earth a decent bit. We talked about water a decent bit, I want to say, or is that just me feeling like we have? Oh, yeah. What up? What's up, Val?
Yeah, in terms of the water, you said. Yeah.
So obviously that's something we experience a lot of in our Rite of Yalzgrim game. Mm-hmm. It's probably one of the most important elemental planes because it's actually the main reason why the two sides of the prime material, the surface worlds, can't meet. It's because the Firewalker, the god of traveling and like oceans, literally churns the elemental plane of water to be so dangerous to the point where ships will not survive the journey from one to the other. And it took thousands of years of gnomish ingenuity of trying to create ships that could eventually get over that managed to circumvent that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a long process of overcoming the elemental plane of water.
Yeah, it was, and it is still dangerous. But it's got obviously elemental planes of ice kind of within it. That's in the blurred boundaries. There's a lot of it. There's very few like major cities or floating cities. I actually wouldn't say there's any floating cities. There's like small little islands and such like that's ice sheets.
Yeah.
Also, Collie Generic Crew. Call. Thanks for the follow. Happy to have you here. How you doing? But the elemental plane of fire is also a very, very interesting one because it's not specifically like they're not the biggest connected one. they're probably the most disjointed, where there's like many little pockets of elemental plane of fire that go and expand in. But it's basically as you go into magma pools underneath volcanoes, that expands, and like when you get into that area, one second. Elemental plane of water, so you can sail across, but can you drive 50 miles under the water to reach the depth of the plane's smallest trench? That's a very good question. It's not something I've thought too much about in the trenches, but because there's very little means to traverse that deep down in setting, without the pressure actually just destroying them. Although I love the idea of wanting to design some deep sea creatures in the elemental plane of water.
Yeah.
That'd be horrific.
Look, when they create submarines in the future.
When they create submarines, I do love the idea that eventually the elemental plane of Earth could bleed into the elemental plane of water. And also that is a good point. The elemental plane of water does even traverse into the world below where the stardust are, because there's the Great Lakes underneath. Like in the world below, that like the great underseas, that is like where the trenches are literally coming down and filling out.
Yes.
I'd say it's probably, of all the 4 elemental planes, like the 4 major elements, it's probably the most important. The elemental plane of air is one I feel like we talked the least about. So basically the way it works in setting is it's like a firmament. It's like the ozone layer of our world, but it's an actual plane of existence. It's where the air titans are. There is no world above, because the world above is the surface world, that is where Quentus and Terrapidon are. Above that is the elemental plane of air.
And above that is the void.
And above that is the endless expanse, the void.
And above separates that is nothing.
Yeah. It do be nothing.
It do be
there's a sun.
Nothing.
I feel like we should talk about the sun when we're done all of this.
What even is the sun, Des, in the setting?
Bro, I don't know. It's like a fucking light bulb.
Fucking just turn it off.
It's a ring light. I don't know. We'll get to it.
It's a ring light for the gods.
It is. No, I don't know. I have ideas of what's with the sun, and like there's some like I like the idea that the sun is literally the divine observer.
Okay. Yeah.
But then I also can't really use that too much.
Because the divine observer is meant to be a very abstract and not there. It's meant to be an explanation for how things came about.
Exactly.
Otherwise, not really interact with the setting.
Also,
I think the sun could be more.
Nightmare scenario. The elemental plane of water has rinicles? Have you ever looked those up? Terrifying IRL phenomenon for starfish. I'm gonna look them up now, not on the stream, because
ice stalactite. So Brian.
Oh. The fuck is that?
Huh. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I definitely would include them. That would make for interesting combat. And then Fishuk said, have people made it to the elemental plane of air? Yes, in the Narapan side there's airships, and they have made it to the elemental plane of air and have actually harnessed some of the elementals up there to capture and enslave them to make their skyships. So, short answer, yes. And Val, I would like to say thank you for introducing the Brinicles to my life. Because I did not know
images of them, actually. They're beautiful in a way. But it's interesting, actually, because as they expand, I was just looking at it briefly, as they expand downwards, then they get, like, trap creatures in that and, like, suffocate them and trap them in the ice. Kind of interesting.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I think that could be, like, even just the aesthetic could make that so fucked up. Like...
But yeah, the elemental plane of air. What exactly goes on in the elemental plane of air? What be happening there, Des?
What do be happening? Well, this is also covered.
Because you said there's cloud giants.
There is cloud giants that have made their way up there. It's a probably quite the how would you phrase this? As it deals with the void the most, it's probably the most tumultuous and turbulent, pun intended, of the elemental planes. There's a lot of nightmare scenarios that do go on up there because it borders the endless expanse. It borders the void. There's a lot of nightmare creatures that are literally trying to come down that the cloud giants and all would face off against and like literally protect the planet as a whole from. There's
sorry.
No, go ahead. You feel like I triggered something in your brain.
Light bulb. Do you have much lore about the cloud giants?
I have a little bit, as in they protect the world from the void, but if there's something you want to include and talk about, let's do it.
Yeah. What if they were giants that, in order to escape from the Jotun's tyranny and the Jotun's control, they fled upwards to create their palaces and their homes in the sky? Almost
Part
like
as the air titan. Yeah, that could work.
They are the giants, the only giants that broke away from the Jotuns and freed themselves. But in order to do so, they fled away from the world and sort of isolated themselves in the sky.
But now they have to deal with the creatures from the void coming down.
Yeah, which is why they have much more of a noble purpose of we're going to defend the world from whatever's coming down from above.
I like that. Yeah, let's go back.
Which is a nice counterpart to the Jotuns, is like the conquering, tyrannical.
I really like that. As to answer what the air genies are like, we had talked about this a little bit before you came in, Fajuk. I don't want a blanket statement any two genies are like, all genies are slavers. Like, all fire genies are slavers. I think you could find two air genies and they could be completely different. You could find one who wants to literally, like, murder a bunch of people just for sport, just to see what they're like. I would think that there's like at least one or two air genies that are obsessed with figuring out what each individual's last breath looks like. I want to capture your last breath.
Evil. Adds evil. Capture bottling,
distilling your last breath. I think that would be really good. That's evil. And then there's some that are just like wanting to have fun, like live life to the best. I don't know about genies, but a lot of people are noble gases. Right, just stare at the camera. Thank you, Val. Cloud Giants banned the dropping of beans onto their realms after the great slaughter brought on by Jack, who later became the Ripper. Ooh. Effing chat for the Cloud Giants. It's pretty cool, Raph. And for people who are watching, if you're liking what you're seeing, we're 5 followers away from 300. We'd really appreciate it if you followed. Shameless.
Shameless plug.
Shameless. That answers the genies. I think there is like some genies that I've designed in the air element, like at least one, because I just love that concept of what's your last breath. I want to see what your last breath looks
I like that. Well, I was going to say, I could even imagine there'd be quite a few genies that would be quite interested whenever there's an event like a war occurring, because prominent individuals from that are now in harm's way directly. They're like, "Ooh, I'm going to make sure I have one of my acolytes around them, so if they do die, I can capture their last breath, or so I can steal them and freeze them in ice. So I have this person in that moment of their death anyway. So you have followers like in these periods of strife and turmoil, just like hanging around waiting to capture that moment in a very chaotic and selfish way.
So Pal says, imagine if Jack from Jack and Jill, Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, and Jack the Ripper were all the same person. So now imagine that
they're not.
Jack from Jack and Jill, Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, and Jack the Ripper, and Jack the dude I work with who does a lot of cocaine are all the same person.
Des, I think you need to ask some questions to Jack at your work.
Look, I'll ask some questions. So you get
Have you
ever
fought giants? Oh fuck! Look, on cocaine, he could probably fight giants.
Look, he'll at least think he is. But no, I actually fucking love that idea for a warlock with a genie patron. Is like capturing last
disaster.
Breath. I think that's what your character Thasius's last breath would have been sold to from the hags. They would have made a deal with a genie. That's probably what a good bartering chip, because you barded that away.
I did, and I got it back in.
You did get it back, but if they had kept it, they would have.
Never happened. Yeah.
No, we discussed in the epilogue. You did get it back, but that's what it would have been sold to. And I like to imagine that your last breath was already sold to an air genie, and that was what that story would have consisted of: was going to the elemental plane of air on a skyship to try and get your last breath back.
Fucking rocking up in a skyship, like, yo, we fucking enslaved one of your fucking genies to fuel this thing. Give me back my soul, buddy. Just the ultimate flex of doing that. Like, yeah, we've learned how to power ourselves on you that you've done to us. So, cough it up.
Yeah,
I like
literally.
that. I like that.
Can't forget the Jack that jumped the candlestick. The only thing he really
he
did,
did it on
everything else was
cocaine.
him being a liar, pants on fire. Yo. What can you do about
Yeah,
liars?
so I think
Light their pants on fire.
That's really interesting in terms of the elemental plane of air. I think
I
it makes it
love the
quite
concept
a
of last breath as like an actual item.
yeah. Well, now you need to come up with a genie.
I have some genius
genie
right here. I
that
can
does-
just assign it.
Just okay. I like that though. I like that.
That's very, very curious. That's very curious.
But I like genies having that type of not playful. I don't say playful, but very self-absorbed nature. They're like amusing themselves, you know.
Oh yeah, they're mostly just interested in like having a good time. That's their thing. I want to just live life to the fullest as I can. Also, I'm a completely disruptive. Bradish, thanks for joining the Discord. We didn't even put that in chat. We'll put that in chat now. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, come join us on Discord. We'll hang out. But no, I think so. We've talked about each of the border realms quite well. So, do you think it's time we talk about the world below? Because we spent like an hour on the border realms.
Ooh, let's talk about the world below. Ez, what is the world below? I don't know anything about that.
You fucking liar. But Val said, last breath is frozen, but the last breath is also the person's soul. This is creating an imbalance of the transfer of souls between the mortal realm and the realm beyond. That would cause some issues. That would cause some issues.
And it would be very in character for the genius to be like, I don't give a fuck. So what if this soul was promised to a devil?
Come take it, bitch.
Come take it. I don't care. Cool. Fuck you.
Yeah, that is like a. Genies are basically that one guy in the bar who's had one drink too many and is confident beyond their rights.
Yeah. Genies will punch above their weight. They don't care because it's funny. It'd be funny to see the results of it. It'd be amusing.
At the end of the day, if I can have an amusing death, at least I died laughing. Like.
Yeah. I like that. But yes, the world below.
Let's talk world below. It encompasses many things: an empire of ghouls, a starless elf civilization that you know nothing about. You're lying. How could you lie to stream and chat like that? How could you lie to chat? Look chat in the eyes and tell them that you've lied to them.
What is starless elves, chat?
As Raph starts bleeding profusely from the nose, trying to suppress his knowledge.
Yeah.
You anytime lore comes up that you don't know in character. Yeah.
It's hard. It's very hard. But yeah, in terms of the world below, I think in terms of because the world below is our equivalent of the Underdark in most other settings.
Yes.
It's that spooky place beneath everything in which there are many horrors, many dark tunnels, and some civilizations. But I think it's interesting to look at in terms of the key components, I guess, of the world below and how it interacts with the prime material plane, which for the most part in our setting is quite minimal.
Well, it's extremely minimal. It's not even considered a different realm, so to speak. It's just considered the world below. It's not, the Underdark stuff isn't its own realm, other than for like mechanical purposes, maybe. Although I don't even think I'd let plane shift work on that.
No, it's not different. It's a different realm in the sense of it being very different to the surface, but it's not actually like realm.
Yeah, it's part of the planet. It's the world below, and it's as vast as the surface. Promise your firstborn to a devil for a deal, and keep your V card for all eternity. I'll need to discover somebody stole your DNA and made a clone that technically counts. That sounds like a win-win scenario. If you keep your V card past 40, you become a wizard.
Oh, fuck.
Warlock wizard multi-class. That's your character's next backstory, Raph. 40-year-old virgin.
Thank you, Val, for coming up with my next character. Fun time.
Imagine a one shot where it's just all meme character idea. It's like that shit.
God no. That's.
I
I mean,
wouldn't
that'd be
run it, but it'd
hilarious.
be a funny
I was gonna, I
concept.
was, I was gonna say, definitely not running it, but it'd be hilarious to watch.
Oh yeah, it'd be absolutely hilarious to watch. It's
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Um, it is what it is. But yeah, in terms of the world below, what did we want to discuss in regards to it? Because it's quite a big
So I have
topic, and there's
I have
a
three
lot
bullet
of
points. I have the Starless Elves, I have the Empire of Ghouls,
Yes.
and the Durgar.
Yes.
And ATD cartography. I hit save.
Yes. You got that back, ATD. So let's start. Let's start with, I think, on the smallest one, the one that we'll probably go into less here and more on a very much later stream, which is the Duragar.
Okay.
There are no Duragar on the Quenthian side of the world.
No, there are in the Rapidon side. There is a lot of
Yes.
Durgar, specifically Hold Thrahawk being the main ruler of the Durgar clans. A very, very apt villain for your history. A very, very strong guy, Rayrick Thrahawk. Caused a lot of big spook. Has a few players' heads under his belt. I think he has like 2 players' heads under his belt.
One.
One?
Yeah, no. Technically, one and a guest character. One and a guest character.
True, but 2 player characters technically.
So technically 2.
2.
2. But yeah.
So the Durgar themselves are very typical lore. It's Durgar that fled deeper underground in the world below to figure out what lied beneath. They are psionically infused with the Mind Flayers, like that lore. Although I don't know if that will stay canon. We are going to be reworking an awful lot of that outside. I don't know if I'll keep that.
I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities with the Dwarven lore. My throat was there. With the Dwarven lore and Durgar lore in general that we may want to retouch upon and build up more.
Yeah, so we'll talk very little about it. They exist. They're over there, and they are warriors, and they are very, very powerful. But let's talk Empire of Ghouls. But meme character Yuan T. Paladin running a soup kitchen called the Memory Melon to sound like a Mary Melon. Also, a typhoid Mary due to poison and disease immunity. Kill a medium rare chicken in wild mushrooms with a nightshade berry sauce. A good meal. In their ignorance, they wonder why their customers keep dying. You know, as a restaurant, I don't think that's going to stay open very long. I just don't see it happening.
The phrase "medium rare chicken" just
medium rare chicken,
delicious. That's some serious gourmet shit.
You're telling me you don't have your chicken blue?
Yeah. Look, everyone, if you have meme character ideas, put them in the chat. We're interested to hear them. Always good to laugh.
Get a good giggle out of it.
But yeah, the Empire of Ghouls. The Darakul Empire.
Darakul Empire. Cool. So, tell me what you know about the Ghoul Empire, Raph.
Right, so... in terms of, is this also including out-of-character knowledge?
Yeah, you're not Calacinder right now, so let's talk what you know.
Okay, so I can talk about what I know, who the Emperor of Ghouls is, or is that something you prefer to keep?
Yeah, like, I don't want to take up all the talking, so let's have you talk about it.
Yeah, so the Empire of Ghouls is run, quite aptly named, the Emperor of Ghouls, who I think, according to the last lore discussion that was had, is a Illithid. Is that right?
Yeah, that is an Illithid who is...
Yes, and
I'll stop you. I talk a lot, so I want you to repeat as much as you know.
Yeah, who is basically a great Illithid necromancer. I'm not sure if it's like a full-on lich type of situation, but very much a practitioner of dark necromantic magic, who is ancient, very old, not as old as the Starless, but still very, very old by the standards of the world and by the standards of the surface world, who essentially has established a empire based on necromancy and of his undead legions,
which are all connected to the hive mind.
Yes, in an inverse very much of the whole Elder Brain situation with Illithids, there is a hive mind, but it's a undead hive mind where everyone is linked together. And I'm unsure actually in terms of the lore of the Empire of Ghouls, if there are actually how independently thinking individual like high priests and shadowmancers and people like that are in it, or if they are still very much under the thrall of the emperor.
So they are enthralled by the Emperor, but the Shadowmancers and anything above like a foot soldier ghoul, Imperial ghoul, like actual like mass horde has like not free will, but has the capability of free thought.
Yes.
They are able to think and adapt quickly.
Yes, and they're allowed to take actions, their own personal actions, I imagine, so long as they just don't go against the will of the Empire of Ghouls.
Well, why would they want to? Because they share part of the mind of the Empire of Ghouls. They are all the Empire of Ghouls.
Exactly. All very much doing his bidding, what it is that what he wants, his motivation, his reason for launching a war, an unending war against the Starless and trying to reach the surface world is unknown.
Yeah, and to answer Fajik's question, can the Emperor of Ghouls have warlocks? Yep, he can.
Yep.
And Raph, I would like to point out that he is actually older than the Starless. The Empire of Ghouls is not, but the Emperor of Ghouls is.
Yes. Yep. We don't know. We don't know his age.
I do, but I'll just give you his title: the First Illithid.
Oh wait, he's the first Illithid. Okay, that changes things slightly. Right.
Yes, and he is a lich.
But is he of the House Thal Kalzir, lineage of House Gorzel? I did not think so.
No.
So
he a pussy ass bitch.
L plus the ratio plus Starless plus Dying God. Get out of here, nerd.
But no. His main goal is to destroy the Starless, and to mass his unstoppable horde.
Which also, coincidentally, makes him much older than the self-proclaimed Saint of Undeath, Samael.
Correct.
And probably on equal footing to Samael.
Oh yeah, that Illithid when the first form of like dark rites came about and the first like tadpole was placed in a mind of someone, it was this person. And then they're the first Illithid, and it's like looking at all the Elder Brains and everything, it's like, this is weak. And then Samael rocks up as the Saint of Undeath, and it's like, I've been controlling undead since you were still in your father's nutsack. Calm down.
Yeah, I've been controlling undead since like your entire race barely even existed.
It's like, oh, you are the Saint of Undeath. Please try and control the horde. You cannot control the horde. How funny. Saint of what?
Yeah.
Dummy Saint says what?
Like, pretty much just like, look at me. I am the Saint of Undeath now.
Yeah, it's like, that's funny. You're powerful. That's okay. I'll help you, but you're funny.
Yeah. Don't act like you're bigger than me, boy. Settle down.
Yeah. But yeah, he's the first Illithid. They are the first Illithid.
Yeah.
It's like, they're ready for what will come to be. Also, the really annoying thing is, I don't think we could ever actually publish anything on the Emperor of Ghouls unless we made a different, like, I think Matt Koval actually made an open source Illithid, because not like non-copyrighted version, because I believe Illithid is copyrighted.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's product identity of WotC.
Yeah. But yes, they are the Empire of Ghouls, to sum it up, are an underground in the world below necromantic legion run by a Illithid lich that predates most of humanity.
That's it. Yeah. It's like there's again.
But in terms of for the Empire of Ghouls, there's very little in the way of. I don't know. It's like they are very much in the fitting description of undead horde. It's not like they're undead that have misunderstood and sort of started to build their own sort of cities and such. They're very much undead horde under the thrall of a singular individual.
Absolutely. It's like the Emperor of Ghouls is out here ready to just rock out. And the Necromancer invents colon golems, heart horcruxes, and liver liches. I hate it. Colon golem.
I hate that. Colon golem? I hate that. I never want to see that.
Thank you so much, but I hate that. But yeah, as the Emperor of Ghouls, they've worked against the Starless. Like, now, mind you, as I said, the whole, like, backstory for them I'm not going to get into because they're literally one of the villains of the campaign, but they were, like, the Emperor of ghouls after they were the first Illithid. They were the first Illithid for many, many years. And then after the Starless sort of thing, they started working on the Empire of Ghouls and very quickly grew to a not controllable size for the Starless. And it's like...
Well, I like to think that the Illithid, the Emperor, made contact with the Starless and was like rebuffed by them, like back up type of deal, like almost like tried to influence them, tried to work his magics on them, and was pushed out.
Is that just because you're helping Stardust copium?
No, but in terms of building up, like why that started, why he suddenly.
Oh yeah, no, there is there was the thing of like, hey, you are now down here. What is like?
So are the Starless screwed? Are the Starless screwed?
Are the Starless screwed?
No.
Watch the Kingslayers campaign to find out.
Not while they have faith in the Dying God, because the stars will return. Well, that's the thing. You have two clerics can get flesh to stone, shapes, curious restoration, race to Christmas, more flesh, the secrets.
That's
is
when you realize your cleric's not the good guy.
Yeah. When you realize your cleric is kind of fucked up.
You got a book.
But yeah, so it's quite interesting in terms of the world below, because you quite literally have probably two of the oldest individuals and / races existing down there.
Oh, for sure. It's like
clashing against each other. Because really, in terms of sorry, I was gonna say, in terms of civilization, the only other civilization that predates the Starless is the Jotuns. Giant.
Well, and on Quenthos.
On Quenthos, yeah. On Quenthos, because of course, yeah, outside of that, but on Quenthos, in terms of the prime-material Quenthos side.
Yeah. The oldest civilizations would be the Starless, and then the oldest individual would be the Jotuns and the Starless and
would be
the Emperor.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, individuals, the Jotuns that have survived both the First War, the many wars that they fought. That's the thing. The Jotuns have fought, and I imagine there's also a lot of infighting. I imagine, at least between.
Oh, the Jotuns a lot, especially because of Greggy. Also, just said, fun fact: wanted to promote the game, hence above question. Thanks for putting in the footwork.
Thank you. But yeah, so in terms of the Darical, is there anything that you want to touch upon in particular with them, or?
I don't. Again, we're treading the line very carefully here right now, mostly for the fact that this is relevant to the current campaign, and I don't want to spoil too much, like, how the conflict started, because I feel like that is, like, for understanding how the conflict started is, like, the first step into ending the conflict. So I don't want to talk about why the Emperor of Ghouls is, like, hard out here on the Starless.
Which, yeah, so it's... And also, like, it's a villain. The whole Emperor of Ghouls is set up to be a villain.
Yes, and Val said, when all the stars are disappearing but the sun remains, then you realize it's just a blue exploding police box that's bigger on the inside. I don't know who that references his target at.
The
Doctor Who reference.
Yeah, Doctor Who reference. But what was I going to say?
Well, let's talk Starless. Tell us what you know about the Starless's origins.
Oh, buddy, I have had to do this in character, out of character, and now out of character again. So basically, the Starless are the descendants of the original Star Elves that came to Quenthos with the Dying God, or whatever their name was, before they became the Dying God. But they are the descendants of the original Star Elves. The Star Elves being the firstborn children of the Old Gods. But upon the Dying God's defeat by the Jotun giants, and in the ensuing conflict and turmoil and everything that followed, those who still held loyal to the Dying God retreated underground into hiding, both escaping the Jotuns and also out of a need to, reform themselves and survive and build something anew, whilst working for a way to restore the Dying God to life. And over the millennia that have passed, the Starless have formed a civilization in the world below, and are now probably in terms of the Quentian side, the beacon of civilization in the world below. Contrary to most, Drow settings, they're not a evil slaving race that fits all those tropes and everything else. They're very different. I'm trying to think of a way to sum up. They're very obviously religiously motivated with the whole Dying God. That forms a core part of their civilization.
And their culture.
And their culture, but they're very old. Like, their cities in the world below predate the cities on the surface. It's a very old memories linger for a long time for the Starless. Yeah.
They're very, very,
that sums up.
They're very, very smart. They have a lot of information gathered. They've got archives upon archives of information. They mostly don't interfere in like mundane, like 300-year war of humanity. They didn't really partake in because they've got so much to do in their own realm below. But they're very much so in the realm of trying to revive the Dying God. That's the main part of their cultural thing. Is like, specifically, we see Cal a lot in our main game looking for the shards, like these actual parts of the Dying God, to try and reassemble to a point where their stars return and they would become star elves. As it was a self-sacrifice, not an actual imposed sacrifice of anyone else. It was more like a zealot idea, like that that they are still faithful, that these ones here, they're still the faithful elves, whilst the others split off and forgot the old ways. They held true, and they held true to the Dying God, and they made it their mission to restore the Dying God and to restore the dreams of a prosperous world. The dreams of humanity settled on
Quenthas.
On Quenthas. Also, the Dying God, refresh the memory. So the Dying God is the original god that brought humanity over to Quenthas from the other side. That's why we have the races that we do. It was the races that were brought over to try and settle this area and fight against the Jotuns. We found out in-game that the Dying God specifically decided to fight solo rather than look for any help from the other old gods that were doing a fight against the Jotuns on the other side of the realm, the Darapadan side. They thought they could do the same over on this side. They're like, I will settle this myself. I can do this.
Like overconfidence. Yeah.
Overconfidence, and was then shattered by the Saint of Giants, Egregi, who was previously the one who settled the 300-year war in tandem with the humanity's resistance.
Yes.
So they are basically the reason why humanity is in the area.
Yeah. Fought a very long war with the Stars by their side against the Giants. Eventually was shattered, and so in terms of the Starless, I imagine in terms of them, like, the main reasons why they haven't had more of an impact outside of themselves is mainly because they are such an isolated group. They keep to themselves, they keep to their own empire, and keep to their mission of restoring the Dying God, and also the fact that because they are such an old civilization, they are very slow to change.
Yes,
and
slow
to
to act as well.
Make differences. They're slow to act.
Slow to act on new things, I would say. Not slow to act on things that are currently working. Also, Val put in the chat, horror idea. The planet is bleeding. Eventually, the characters realize it's an eldritch entity giving birth to the same eldritch entity for all eternity in a state of endless suffering.
That's grim, but I actually fucking love that.
I think that would make for a very, very interesting campaign.
Yeah. I actually really like that idea. Fuck. That's a cool eldritch horror idea that you can go into with that.
Sure, but is the entity the planet?
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it.
I interpreted it as that.
Which is fucking cool.
That's cool. We also are a big fan of eldritch stuff here, hence the channel name.
What? I just thought we chose it because it sounds cool. But yeah, so in terms of the Starless, trying to think of what to discuss. Did you want to get into more specific parts, or world creating something with the Starless, or? How did you
don't know.
imagine?
She said that sounds like a Pluto-style planet in the void of Dez's world. Look, not any of the planets that are established, but you never know what might come up in the future of eldritch beings that want to make their own. That's how the old gods performed.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Starless, like the main city for them is Izinhar Exandia, which, if you've been to the Monday Games, you would have heard mentioned by Calasindia.
Many times.
Many times. Probably, well, not probably, it is the oldest city in the world. And it is very grand, sitting on the banks of the Great Lake Uruvith, which is one of the many huge lakes that span the world below, and which has become the focal point for the Stars. It's the main city, it's the hub of activity, it's where the palace is, the Crystal Palace of Izinhar Exandia lies.
You say Izinhar Exandia as if it's such a plain name. The full name is Izinhar Exandia, the Crystal Citadel, the gem below.
Sorry.
It's a bit of a mouthful, but let's be honest.
Look, so is Calasindia Thalcalzir.
Look, it's not a small name.
It's not a small name.
Neither is Zilzorzana's Thalcalzir.
Look, there is Zilzorzana. Shout out to
Thalcalzir, Queen of the Starless Glory, paragon of her people.
Mother dearest. Yes. I'm trying to think on.
I believe Zilzorzana has faced off against the Emperor of Ghouls once.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this very briefly. That's what on her. So we'll talk about the Karzun Vir, which is the military drafting for all Starless Elves. At the age of 100, when they're considered an adult, they have a 2-decade-long mandatory military draft to serve in the fight versus the Empire of Ghouls, which obviously once upon a time, the Karzun Vir was a more peaceful thing where it's just like border roaming patrols, making sure that there was no issues. But now with the Empire of Ghouls, it's like actual danger. And there's an awful lot of terror in that, and even no one is excused, even the queen of her people. And live to survive the tale. She is the utmost of the Starless people. She is considered the inarguable best ruler that the Starless civilization has ever had, and it will be big boots to fill when she passes.
Yeah, big boots for someone.
Big boots for someone with a plan.
Without going too
and his hobgoblin concubines.
Shut the fuck up. Without going too deep into character motivations and dark backstory stuff, so the Karzun Vir, as mentioned, military service, but it is run as a focal part of many focal parts of Starless civilization are by the what is the full name? The Izinhar Inquisition, the inquisitorial service that oversees many aspects of the Starless civilization in general. Let's say,
like the police force, the military are one. It's like different branches of the same organization.
Yes, there's many different branches of it that basically ensure that everything runs smoothly, everything runs well, and that the word of the dying god is paramount. Nothing
illegal worship doesn't happen. I just realized how fucked is Merc if you guys go to the world below? Because that's illegal worship.
That is illegal worship, but I imagine it would be like diplomatic immunity.
Diplomatic, okay, yeah, I can see that working for Merc Castiel.
For everyone else, though, I don't know what I'm gonna pull, Des. Taking Nahajad.
Oh yeah, no, it would all be like a thing of the Inquisition would want apt reports. And Fujika, what other societies exist in the world below, or is that Kingslayers? On the Quenthos side, it is predominantly the Starless and the Empire of Ghouls, because the Empire of Ghouls eradicated other civilizations some
consumed.
Well, no, there is technically Myconid colonies, but again, most of them have been taken.
So at this stage, the world below is civilization-wise those two, but then filled with numerous other horrors and beasts and monsters that exist. Actually, Des, are there aboleths in the
Aboleths,
world
no.
below? Aboleths? I'm not in
Aboleths
there,
as
so-
a character, as a monster, I haven't decided. My gut reaction is no, because like their entire history is being forced to the world below because of also Halo Bot 980. Sup? How you doing? But no, aboleths, they come with a very ingrained lore of what they are as is. Like they fought against old gods and such, and were forced to below. And I don't know. My gut reaction is no. I don't particularly want to use aboleths. But I may change my mind if I can figure out a way to write them in without because there's already creatures that fought the. Like, maybe they just took the side of the Jotuns in that fight. That could be a very easy way of describing it. So maybe there are aboleths. None
Maybe
that
there
have
are.
been... I'll just put it... There could be, but there have been none that have shown up to fight anything yet, or to cause, which maybe they're secretly planning and waiting for something else. I won't rule it out,
Mhm.
but I won't commit myself to the notion that I have them. Other than
Yeah.
that, we have, in the other side of the world, we do have Durgar and Sverfniblin, Deep Gnomes. We have,
Mhm.
obviously there's the implication of Illithids, which not all of them are in the world below, but there are a fair few that would be in service to the Emperor of Ghouls. But you got to think of the Emperor of Ghouls doesn't get when it goes to war, it normally comes back with more. Oh, this live was recommended to you, so now you're here to stay for a while. Who recommended it to you, could I
Hey.
ask? Glad you got the recommendation. I hope you enjoy your stay. If you like what you see, we'd appreciate a follow. We do world building of a Wednesday, and our Monday games is our main game with Kingslayers. We're 12 p.m. GMT +1 over there on a Monday, and we'd love to see you. Who recommended? Twitch. Nice. Nice that Twitch is looking out for a homie.
Which,
Yeah.
Thank you.
PayPal received. Twitch. Let's go. How are you though? How's your day going? What have you been up to? How's the day treating you? But oh, I was
Yes.
gonna say oh yeah. So most countries or civilizations, when they go to war, normally come back with less troops than they left with. That is the opposite for the Empire of Ghouls. Because anyone that they kill, like, there's a, I think 50-50 chance innately that slaying comes back as a ghoul. Like, that saying is like, it's an
Yes.
infection, the Dark Ghoul Fever, which we've talked an awful lot about in our main game. It's been a big focal point of, like, some civilizations and some cities you guys have gone to. Like, they're trying to surface, and they're trying to get places in the surface. So, the Empire of Ghouls, other smaller civilizations of, like, you know, maybe there was some, like goblinoid species that live below the surface, and all, they've been absorbed. Like, that's the thing. The Empire of Ghouls, it's like, I have a plan, and that plan is world domination. So let's absorb everything. My day's been good, if you were asking me. Had a little dispute with my friends and DM over my characters attitude recently. Oof. Yeah, looks that happens. The characters, but it's all good fun at the end of the day. I hope it wasn't too bad. I know that conflict is a big spook, so hope it wasn't too bad. Hope you're feeling okay. But that's the thing with the Empire of Ghouls. They take over. Like, it's not like they just take territory and then, like, such, like, because they take territory and then they expand. So it's like, you're talking, for example, if they went up against an army of about 2,000 strong with an army of 2,000 of their own, let's say they may lose a couple hundred troops, but of that 2,000, if they killed them all, about 400, no, about 500 of them, no, more, about 1,000 of them, about 50%, are coming back as troops. So even if they lose 1,000 troops, killing 2,000 troops, that's a net gain of, you know, there's no loss. So it's like they're just ready to keep going on. It's a constant struggle because it's an enemy that, if any of your people die to it, there's a strong chance that they're coming back. Now, over generational stuff, the reason the Starless stand so strong against a fight against the Empire of Ghouls is, genetically speaking, they've evolved to a point where the Dark Ghoul Fever, they've built up an immunity of their soldiers getting constantly attacked, and like their magics, which would put them as like a unique qualifier against any other species versus the Empire of Ghouls, is the fact that they are immune. They cannot be affected by the Dark Ghoul Fever. They can't be brought back, whereas other races can be. Like, obviously, there are some races that are immune to disease, but I don't believe innately in the Quentian races, I don't think any of them are immune to disease. Among like Tiefling, Satyr, Ravenfolk, like I don't think any of we don't have any races that are innately immune to disease. So
yeah,
that's why they are the biggest, like the shield, like the guardian of humanity versus the Empire of Ghouls, is because they're the only ones that can fight versus the Empire of Ghouls and not add troops.
Yep.
Because the other thing is, it's like, if someone dies to a ghoul, 50-50 chance, they just rise as a ghoul then and there. It's like, it's not like it's a process over time. If they die with the fever, like, they can get wounded and then bring it back and infect the city. But if they die in an open warfare, they could come back right then and there. So it can very quickly snowball out of hand if the ghouls get off one good flank and maybe, let's say, a couple 50 to 100 of the troops die, then all of a sudden, like, you're talking maybe that's 25 to 50 new troops on the battlefield on their side that are suddenly risen as strong ghouls, empowered. And some of them, if they're going up against like high casters, they can come back as like creatures that are like Shadowmancerable and like have these abilities, and it's like compounding disaster for anyone other than Starless fighting off against it, because it's like, if the Starless lose 100 troops to the Empire of Ghouls, they haven't added any troops to the Empire of Ghouls. But if humans fighting the Empire of Ghouls and they lose 100 troops, they've added on average 50 troops to the Empire of Ghouls.
Yeah. So basically, long story short, like, in terms of Empire of Ghouls, they have, replenished and added to their number infinitely over throughout their conquests of the world below. Which is why the Starless hold firm and do their best to protect.
It's a losing battle, like 100%. It is, unless you take out the Emperor of Ghouls, who's doing all this, it is a losing battle.
Yeah.
Because you're fighting...
Unless the stars return.
Unless the stars return, in which case the power of the Dying God will help eradicate, as one of the domains is the grave.
Yeah. But then there's the thing, like, it's a very slow attritional battle with the Starless. Like, the Starless are doomed. If it goes, like, they will continue on for a long time, but it's like, in the end, the Starless will lose.
Exactly.
Unless, change is made.
Oh, it's been going on for a while, I guess. A good way to explain it, if you're curious, would be: good innocent Charles sees friends murdered multiple times due to DM. Character turned cold and defensive to new people because of trauma. Mental goes upside down and character is now very rude. In a sense, other players' friends don't like his attitude and neither does the DM. Sorry for the long message, I know I just started. No, like, let's chat. Like, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad way to approach it, but what was their main issue of being rude? Because obviously, there's one thing to play your character to to the T, but then there's some things that you have to give concession on for the sake of moving story forward. Like key NPCs, it's like pull these traits back a little bit. Like, it's not 100% like just character. You also have to think about the story as a whole. As I know I DM an awful lot, too much, and if character's getting rude in a sense, it's okay. Like, I understand not every character is going to be nice to every NPC, but I suppose it would be different, and obviously we don't know your game, so this is imperfect knowledge we work on, but if the character is rude to everyone regardless, that's not character growth, it's just one tone. Whereas if someone showed them warmth and kindness and can earn trust, then that's not as much of an issue at all, because it's like they're just becoming more traumatized. Like, that's, if they're a child character, that's first of all, that's heavy territory. So before the DM approves that, I think there should be a lot of conversations on how the mental of the child could progress, because it's a weighty topic to introduce into a D&D game, the mental stability of a child going through all this trauma. But I don't think turning cold and defensive is too much of an issue. I don't think that's an issue. The rude is maybe just the character reading wrong. Maybe it's just a different approach you have to try and feel out when you're going there. And if I was working with a character who's doing that, I would say slow and mistrusting is one thing, but also you have the aspect of this child maybe getting a little bit more timid because they're not powerful enough to save their friends. So maybe they don't want to provoke people because they don't know what they could possibly do. That's my input from a DM's perspective. Raph, if you have anything to add.
I think you pretty much summed up a lot of it.
This is why I'm the forever
It,
DM.
it is a difficult thing to navigate in terms of playing a character who is emotionally, who are trying to bring out a very deep emotional state that they're going through, and having that be understood by both players and the DM. It is a difficult thing, especially if there's no conversation had prior as well or after.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like too much of an issue. I think once you like,
Yeah.
a lot of issues can be solved. Like, just chat to your DM. Like, if you're trying to just move the story forward and like you've good intentions, I don't think it's much to worry about. But that sounds like an interesting way. Like, it's better than any character growth is better than no character growth. There was no reaction to the story. I'd feel very flat. So, at least you're having that. And I've completely lost my train of thought of what we were talking about prior.
Yeah,
we've covered the Cards in Vir, we've covered the Dying God, we've covered the Empire of Ghouls expansion methods.
Yes.
What are the topics on the world below?
The world that will decide the world.
Yeah.
In terms of things to cover, we touched upon the Inquisition. House Thalcalzia, as is often said so far, is the ruling family. And the most important noble family within Starless and within Iznhar Ixandir.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's anything else that you want to...
Is there any questions people have?
Yeah, or if there's anything you wanted to create, I guess, or come up with, or discuss with them that we haven't really touched upon before.
I'm not sure.
Is the world below connected to other planets? I guess, in the same sense the world above is. I mean,
the world does stretch below, and there is forests in the world below. There'll be more bioluminescent plants. There is, like the world below,
and the roots of the heart
would have the roots of the heart tree. That's where their world would be formed from, and it can connect to other planets in that same sense that the world connects to all planets, but it's not a ability specific to the world below or any specific plane. It's the ability of the world.
Yeah, and very interesting to point out, the world below does have pathways, very hidden and dangerous and difficult to find pathways that do connect to the other side of the world.
Yes, it does for sure. So does the world. Well, the world no longer exists on the other prime material because the other side, because it was burnt by the Dragon King, which we're going to start getting into soon. I don't think we have a start date to announce, but we will be doing multiple world building streams a week where we start expanding the world information on the other side of the world soon to introduce it to the setting
to everyone. But yeah, so there is that. There are pathways that connect across, which I'm curious actually in terms of the elements of the world in the world below. As you said, I imagine a lot of it would be like roots, like deep roots from some of the old ancient trees in the of the world, and like plants and like small bioluminescent plants and such.
Correct.
But there wouldn't be like forests and stuff like that.
I think there would be. I think there would be not forests, but forests made up of roots of the wood. I think there would be like like not like leafy trees so to get through, but like actual like the roots like going through all these like I don't know what you call a forest made of roots. There'd probably be a cool name you can come up with, but I don't currently have one in my head. Okay. Halobot said, but my main problem, I guess, is the other players don't know why I changed your attitude, so I understand why they got upset. But the DM knows my character front to back, and he's upset because I acted out my character current mental state too good. This caused multiple important NPCs to dislike or hate him, and my DM said my friends don't like playing with me because of the attitude I act out. Don't know if this is true. So currently I feel punished, in a sense, for this new mental state I have to go through that my DM put me in. I think you got to talk with everyone then. Simplest thing is have everyone show up early or stay late and have a group talk. Like a lot of things can just be fixed by talking as a group. Like that simple as it's quite. I know it can be intimidating to ask everyone to sit down and like hash out issues, but the only other alternative is to just stop, and that's not fun. unless like you're really just not enjoying yourself. But you know, there is such a thing as playing your character too on the nose at the same sense, not giving any concession to the actual like the motives, like the main driving forces. And thanks for the follow. But I think you just got to talk with everybody, like not just the DM. You got to sit down and talk as a group, get the other players' feelings, and just ask for brutal honesty. See where it goes, and be willing to change if that's what it takes. Or, you know, how can you approach it otherwise? But as for the world below, the Woad itself is probably like we'll use these last few minutes to talk about the Woad in general, because I feel like it's the only other big like main force of the Primateer that's important. We'll talk about it a little bit here. Is the
I was going to say I like this is just a random idea I have in mind. I like the thought that in like Eastern Alexandria and major stylist cities like that, there's almost I just like the idea of like almost small gardens and like forests being created out of like crystalline sort of mineral structures, and you almost have like an artificial sort of garden created out of like crystal formations of the earth itself, which then lends itself very much into the whole like crystal citadel and stuff like that.
Hey, I got one idea for a weapon, but before I cement it, does anybody have a god who's known for being a god of separation, or many for the root forest? One idea, you could call it the canopy of roots or canopy of creation to represent the trees the roots create. Help me.
I like canopy of roots.
The canopy of roots. As for god really knowledge, cool. I'm gonna be honest with you, Demon. I know a lot of gods in my world. As for like official gods, unless you're trying to set it in my setting, I'm not going to be able to help you here. I'm sorry. My brain knows a lot of my own deities, but not many others. Raph, do you know other deities of official setting that are gods of separation?
Not really. I only have know the very
Well, I wish my parents were gods of separation.
Yeah, I only know the very mainstream gods.
Thanks for the input, Demon. Also, nice to see you in chat, just hanging out. You've been lurking or just dropped in. Great to have you here again. But as for the Woad, let's talk about the Woad a little bit. So we've talked about this a little bit in every. Okay, God of Separation. Just got in. Love to have you here. So God of Separation. Does it have to be specifically separation, or can it be like something like loss and such?
In terms of separation in regards to what, like, in a more direct sense, or I'm trying to think. Actually, just going through the gods, which ones could kind of work for that type of. Even fracturing. Well,
have you heard about our Lord and Savior, the Dying God?
Which could work. A god that was literally fractured into many parts, and whose mental and physical forms are both shattered.
Yeah.
Which is more of a literal sense of being a god of separation.
Yeah, they are. So the history of the Dying God in our world is they were literally shattered by the Jotuns. It is a god who, Raf's character in our Monday game, is literally trying to go and gather the shards to reassemble the god. They're a god that is, like, the weapon that killed it is, where's the Gnome Love? The Gnome Love is on the other side of the world, which we'll hopefully get to. Soon we're going to start expanding on it. The gnomes themselves actually built the colony ships that managed to connect the two sides of the Primaterial, but we will get the Gnome Love soon. Textual, we will, I promise.
Important. Yeah,
I'll give Gnome Love this. I'll give a little bit of Gnome Love in exchange. Trade offer. I'll talk a little bit about gnomes for a few minutes. You follow the channel. Trade offer.
This is where they hit you with this. I'm already following, and
they're not. I can check. Well, thanks for everything. I'll try to talk with my friends. Players to see what they feel, explain everything. Oh, why I do this and what could change. My friend DM may be harder because he's saying he doesn't care anymore about what I do, and in a sense gives me the short and the stick. Oof. The Dying God is not the one that had the trident.
No.
And I'm gonna be shameless here. Demon, if you want to see more information on the Dying God, if you subscribe to the channel or the Patreon, you can get access to our world novel that has plenty of information on him.
Subtle plug.
Subtle plug. Subtle plug.
It was a hammer, was it not? That broke him?
No, Fujika's asking, did the Dying God have the trident, whereas that is the Farwalker.
No. And but first, what was the killing weapon in Demon's second part there?
Oh, Demon's second
killing weapon.
What was the killing weapon? It was I believe it was an axe.
It was an axe. Yeah, that's right.
It was an axe. It's called the Shattering. It's the axe of Saint Gregi, Saint of Giants, the Jotun.
Yes.
And the Dying God. Yes. Halobot, that is the god of all the Starless civilization that we've been talking about a little bit. It is a great old god and is in the process of dying. If the name didn't give it away, the body has been shattered and the mind is going crazy. Raph's trying to fix that in our main Monday game.
Going insane in the
It is part of our homebrew pantheon, which we have some odd, if you count every deity, close to 100, I think. Close.
There is a lot at this stage.
But if you just talk Quenthian side, we've got close to 30. Just close to 30.
Which actually, Des, can we... I don't know if this is the right place to do this, as this is quite a in-character thing, potentially. But if you look in our world anvil, there is a section on myths of the Dying God. And...
Okay, let's pull this up for stream. Let's pull this up for stream.
Yes. And there is something that mentions Akath, which is the lands of home. Is that just the term used for Durapidon? Or is that something else?
He's dying. What a climax. It is a climax. The journey to Akath, the lands of home. Akath is the place the Dying God came from, a place where those of his faith believe they can find means of resurrection for the Dying God. It is a pilgrimage no one has ever succeeded in, as they believe the pathways lay down in the world below, beyond many underseas and difficult passages, with vile monsters lurking in the way. Some have tried, but none have returned. You know I can't answer this for you, Raph. You 100%, as you are playing a warlock.
On stream. Which is the difficult part to all of this, is because this is very linked to current campaign stuff, so we can't really go too far. But Des, where do Jotuns go when they die?
They go to wherever they believe the Divine Observer has set out for them. No, they have souls just like everything else. Like, they could die and go to hell if they made a pact. They could die and go to hell.
That's the thing. Like, are there Jotuns in hell?
Vijay, you're already following since May 13th.
Listen, could you
nice try. There are couples in this.
There aren't? Or...
Yo, Raph, can you decline the PayPal request from Halobot 980? My only question is, if he's called the Dying God now, what was he called when he wasn't dying? That is what's been plaguing Raph for months. Okay. I'm not answering that.
I have theories. No joke. I have theories about this. And it goes into some very deep, very old lore.
This goes into like 4-year-old lore.
Yep, it's about the real identity of the Dying God. I believe I've cracked it. However, it would make no sense to anyone here, but I believe I've cracked it.
You are cracked, right? You are absolutely cracked right now.
Case, I don't know if you're going to say the name in case your reaction shows everything.
You've said it to me many times. You can say it. You think it's the guiding light. A deity from the other side of the world.
Light. Yes, the Dying God is the guiding light. Not confirmed. That is purely my theory as I get my pinboard out and start marking that down.
Clues have been dropped and those are the ones you found.
Yeah.
Just imagine all the ones you haven't because of the pathway you decided to go in game. The look of just brief pain on your face before you compose yourself.
Don't even go there, Des. You know how to make me panic.
Raph cares deeply for the setting.
Yeah.
But
look, it's
Halobot, I'm sorry, but Raf's gonna have to decline the PayPal request he sent you because you didn't get the information.
No, look, if you do want to eventually learn that, that is something that very well may come up if my character lives in the main game and continues with their quest to restore the sanity and soul and spirit of the dying god.
You know what's wild? I don't know if I should say this to you because it will just upset you.
What is?
There was a brief moment where if you had used Eldritch Communion after getting a divine intervention with the dying god, you could have discussed his name. Because he was, like, there in the brain. So, Demon, we've talked about this a little bit in the stream. It's the Starless Elves. It's the culture that lives in the world below. They are a culture dedicated. Before were, Hajuk, don't make another account to get me to talk about kobolds. I can see that this account was created July 1st, 2015. No.
It's also cool.
I know it's you. You should have at least named it Fajuk with a mustache.
But yes, in terms of what worships the Starless Elves, who live in the world below, our version of the Underdark, which are the descendants of the very first elves. They're a very ancient civilization. Yeah, a very ancient civilization.
They worship him because when he died, they were Star Elves. The original god, the original races, the original race created in the images of the old gods. And when the dying god was slain, their physical form shattered. They purposely themselves sacrificed the stars in their eyes as a deep part of mourning for the loss of the dying god. And that's how they have a very, very beautiful saying among themselves, until the stars return, as like there will be hope for when the dying god returns. It is like a cultural that is not worshipped. The dying god's not worshipped anywhere else because humanity doesn't remember the god that brought them all here. But culture compared to say our real world culture. Like, what are our inspirations? We've got like some Roman inspired culture, some Greek inspired.
For the Starless, we've tried to veer away from real world counterparts as such, and more, I guess, the most direct inspiration would be very much, if anything, from more of a generic elven, like high elven sense, but just changed dramatically.
There's no like
real. What if high elves were sort of drow instead? But there's no directly real world culture that Starless were mainly based upon. Like, there's elements, like in terms of Isenhal Inquisition. Like Isenhal Inquisition obviously is it's based on the Inquisition. And then you have the architecture. I imagine, in my mind at the very least, is very much. I've always imagined it to be more, I would say, Roman in terms of that general design. Not the same, but in terms of like a general imagery of that.
Kind of a halfway cross between Gothic and Roman is the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this story because I just joined, but what if the dying god's many titles was the Guiding Light, or the Guiding Light and the dying god are co-workers? Well, technically could be, because the dying god and the Guiding Light are both brothers to the Dawn Watcher. That is confirmed, but we don't know if the dying god is the Guiding Light. That's Raf's main theory because we don't know the dying god's original name. My Vijayka account technically predates Twitch being called Twitch. Have the receipts to prove it. That's Pogger shit. And
what was Twitch called before Twitch?
Justin TV, I think.
Cool.
But am I caught up on chat? I think I'm caught up on chat.
I think you're caught up on chat.
Yeah, Justin TV.
But yes, so bringing it back to the Woad, I think that's what we were discussing. Yeah,
the Woad. So it specifically is like a highway that connects all our realms that we've talked about so far, our planets. Like, that's how our cosmology works. It's an orrery with 9 planets, so to speak. And the Woad itself. What's wrong, Raf?
I just have a really cool idea about an organization that seeks to destroy the Heart Tree by destroying it at its roots. That would just be a really cool idea for a character as well. part of that.
It wouldn't work in a sense unless it was a Planescape campaign, because to destroy the world you need to destroy it on all 9 planets.
Yes, yeah, but
and there is someone who's doing
so
that. There is a literal dragon god that is doing that.
If you were, for example, to like, let's just say, you know, someone was to cut down the heart tree on one planet, could they actually do that? Would that be possible?
I think the heart tree is too big to cut down. Like,
okay.
Also, the woad itself would defend itself. The woad is capable of defending itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But let's just say, like, you know, an army of fucking Jotuns were like, here's a massive fucking axe, start hacking into it. Could they bring down?
But look, you can destroy heart trees. The Dragon King did it. We know where the woad was on Daraphan. It was Vistastead, and he burnt it to the ground. Dragonfire can do it. Well, not Dragonfire, but Divine Dragonfire can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the heart trees can die, but it more just severs the pathway. So it's like, imagine it's like that, like the road is suddenly cut off. It's like these realms no longer connect.
Mm-hmm. You know what would be cool though? Like, almost like a druid. If we come with another druid circle here, 2 weeks in a row, but a druid circle of like the underground roots of like the root canopy, like circle the root canopy, but very much like an underground.
I feel like as an Aussie, you're obliged to give me just an immature giggle at the root circle.
But yeah, that'd be kind of interesting actually, like an underground, like a world below druid circle. That'd be kind of interesting to look at.
Interesting. Also, let's catch up on chat. So
Shaggoth.
The plot twist: the Dying God was already out. The Dying God now is a doppelganger. More like a Shaggoth than a doppelganger. Shaggoth, Eldritch monster. Oh, is he called Paul? Definitely. Shapeless morphin monster in the Castilla realm, which, much like a doppelganger, is a Shaggoth. That's pretty cool.
You just had your entire chat narrated by Des.
Yep. There you go. But actually, I think we've covered a lot of the bits, like the main forces that work on the prime material, and this is the point where we normally end the stream. Normally,
it is actually. We got a bit over.
Got a little bit over. So this is the last little bit of the stream where I am shameless, and I will ask you to follow, please. We are like only 4 followers away from hitting 300. It'd be very, very cool if we got there, and we're very excited to get there. So if you've liked what you saw, please drop a follow. Other than that, we're out here every Monday and Wednesday. Mondays at 12 p.m. GMT +1, and Wednesdays at 4 p.m. GMT +1. If you want to catch up, I post our schedule every Friday on our Twitter. Thank you for following with your other account, Fajuk, very gamer. I'm not talking about kobolds until they're relevant, because it's not a new follower, and I'm punishing you for that. It's just you with a mustache. However, we do have other ways to support us if you've liked what you've seen. If you got Prime, we'd appreciate it. We'll definitely take a Prime. If you want to drop a Prime, we'll take a Prime. If you can sub to the channel in with Prime or regular way, you get access to our World Anvil. We normally do a lot more. Links are broken in the social. Are you sure?
Oh, that is.
Twitter is not. Instagram is not.
On mobile. On mobile, maybe it is.
Maybe, yeah. They're all working on desktop.
I've never checked out that stuff on mobile, actually.
I've never have I either. But yes, if you liked what you saw, consider subscribing. We'll take it. If you subscribe, you get access to our World Anvil, where we update every Wednesday. Sometimes more writing than others. Some weeks we get a lot written. Sometimes we get very distracted. But we also update it, not always on Wednesdays. Me and Rafa are always adding new stuff, and there will be a lot of new content coming soon. A lot of new content on the World Anvil. If you do subscribe, reach out to me in Discord. Join the Discord server. Just shoot me a message. I'm Des on there, and we'll get you added to it as soon as you have a World Anvil account. If you want to support us further, we have a Patreon where you can support at $5, $10, or $15 a month. For $5, you get access to our Patreon, and I think there's an exclusive role in the the Discord, maybe. There should be. I think it's linked up. If not, I will link that up. But you get access to the World Anvil. That's the main benefit of it, and any subclass design, race design, or sub-race design we do. Specifically right now, lately, we have, until running to the end of this month, a Bard College we put out, a subclass for Bards. It is called the College of the Brass Lungs. It is a Bard College dedicated to being a town crier and yelling at your friends with a large spectral bell. It's free until the end of August. If you can click on that link, look at it, download it, let us know what you think. We have a channel in our Discord server to talk about it. We'd really appreciate it. I know you didn't see many today because it's not a battle day, but I make a lot of battle maps, and for $10 a month, you can have access to them. I do post some of them sporadically to the Instagram, but that's also Instagram, and not all of them go up on that. But if you want to support us that way, that would be very, very cool. Or if at the very apex of that, you want to pay the $15 a month, you can get access to my session reports that I upload every week, although I haven't done them yet this week. I'll be doing them after this shortly. I will be posting based on how I feel every session goes and what could have happened differently, and what they possibly missed or what possibly may come up based on their actions. The last bit, thank you for bearing with me as I go through this. If you want to help the channel beyond monetary value and help us with like actual items and stuff, we've set up a Throne, which is down in our About section now. If you want to gift us things, there's also community gifting enabled. If you don't have enough to buy one full item, you want to put a little bit, like $2, $3, $4 towards something, you can help out that way. But
helps.
Thank you for listening through my spiel. We'd really appreciate the follows. We're only 3 followers away now from from a cool amount, which should be pretty cool. We'll be happy to see you there, and we're gonna raid out. This is the end, fortunately, but we will be back on Monday. See you soon.
Yes. Bye. See ya.